Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Walt, and I am your professor for this course, The Theology and Practice of Ministry, and I would like to welcome you to our time together. This course was conceived by Tony Twist with the idea to have a very practical course for those who are in ministry. So this course is not as academic or nearly as academic as some of the other courses that you've taken, but it focuses on, first of all, the life of the pastor or the person in ministry, as well as some of the significant issues that you face, that we all face in our personal lives, but also in ministering to the people around us. We'll spend the first half of the course talking about the personal life, the family life, time management, all those things that have to do with how we live in the midst of ministry. And we'll spend the second half of the course talking about the current issues and the problems and the challenges that we deal with ministering in the world today. And because this is very much a sharing of life course, I'll be talking to you not so much about theory, but how we, my wife and I, how we've lived our lives in ministry, and share with you what we've learned, what we've done, what the Lord has taught us through the successes, through the failures, and we'll talk about this together too when you come to class. You'll share your life and I'll share from mine, and we'll see what the Lord teaches us in our time together. But because this is such a personal class, and I'll be talking to you very personally, it's important for me to start with to share some of my personal story with you so you know really who I am and the background that I'll be coming from. I had the privilege of growing up in a wonderful Christian family, with first of all grandparents who were strong in faith and passed that on to my parents. My parents had and still have a wonderful marriage, and so I grew up in a happy family. My father is a doctor, an eye doctor, but also a pastor, one of the pastors at the church that I grew up in. So I grew up seeing life and ministry, work and ministry, family and ministry firsthand from my parents. My wife's parents, her father is also a pastor. She grew up in this context in life and ministry and brings many of her experiences and insights also to this course. So I'm very thankful to have had a good childhood, a happy childhood, to grow up in a solid church and to have many good experiences. But of course, just because my parents were and are strong believers, that doesn't mean that that you grow up in the faith. There has to come a point where you make a decision for the Lord Jesus Christ, and that happened when I was 13 years old. It took me by surprise to some degree, but on one evening the Lord met me in a powerful way. I had a tremendous conviction of sin, and the Lord met me and humbled me, and I got on my knees and prayed and asked the Lord to forgive my sins and to come into my life, to take control of my life. And there was a complete change in my life at that point with 13 years of age. The Lord gave me a tremendous peace in my heart, a forgiveness of sins, but also a tremendous hunger to know Him and to know His Word, to study His Word, and to learn and to grow. The Lord just put it in my heart. And so at age 13, I began to really pursue hard after the Lord. And I had the chance at age 13 then to attend a week course that was an intensive course on Christian life and aspects of Christian life. And that made a profound effect on me. It was excellent teaching. And I repeated the course over 4 years. I went 4 different times each year, and some of what I have to share with you in this course actually comes out of those years, the things that the Lord gave me and taught me even when I was a teenager. It was a very blessed time, and right at that time then, when I was age 14, the Lord brought 2 very important people into my life. One was a youth pastor who came to minister at our church, and we developed a very close relationship, and he discipled me very personally and very intensely for the next 3.5 years. And also a young man came into my life who became my best friend over a number of years, and with a real love for the Lord, a commitment to the Lord, and we walked together in spiritual things, and we encouraged each other, we built up one another, and that went on all through my high school years into my college years. Right after that then, at a fairly young age, I met my wife, and she was passionate in her commitment to Christ, her love for Christ, and we were both committed to serving the Lord at that point, and so we joined our lives together. We've been married for 33 years now, and the Lord has given us a wonderful life and ministry together. Now you should know, at that point, I was always planning to be a doctor, to follow in my father's footsteps, to become an eye doctor, and to minister. Like I said, my father was a pastor as well, and to do both. And so at that point, I was in college and then in medical school, where I trained to be an eye doctor. And I did finish my training, and I worked for a number of years. And during those years, we were very involved in learning, growing, obviously, but in teaching and preaching. I had begun that, leading ministries, leading home Bible studies, leading camping ministries. We were very active in that. But we had a sense that the Lord was going to take us into full-time missions, and we were preparing for that as well. Our first thought was that the Lord was going to prepare us for, or use us in medical missions. So we spent time in South America working in the area of medical missions. My wife is a nurse, and so the Lord gave us opportunities to work with missionaries there in South America, and gave us wonderful experiences. But even in that situation, there was still a sense that, well, that's not exactly what the Lord has in store for us for the rest of our lives. In the meantime, my youth pastor had moved to Austria and begun a ministry of evangelism and church planting, and had been involved in planting 2 churches at that point in Austria. And of course, he spoke about that, and he spoke about the needs of Europe, and he spoke about church planting and evangelism and teaching and training in Europe. And that really spoke to me, spoke to actually both of us, but it took a long period of time of thinking and praying, because that would have meant, at that point, really laying our professions aside and moving into full-time ministry of discipleship and church planting and evangelism. And after about a year of thinking and praying and actually struggling with that decision, we made that decision. We packed up our 3 little boys at that point that we had, and we moved to Austria in 1988, and that is where we have been, and we've been serving since then. Shortly after that, we adopted our daughter, and that completed our family. We have 4 children. Our daughter is from Romania, from Suceava, and we found her in an orphanage there, and in 1990 she joined our family. And so we have a wonderful family of 4 children who are grown now, and the oldest 3 married, and grandchildren as well. The ministry, though, that the Lord gave us, we started with a very small group, a house church, a small group of believers, and focused on teaching and evangelism and training. And through the years, the Lord gave us much blessing. The church grew and has grown to be a large church. And during all those years, we focused on teaching and training young people and preparing them for leadership in their generation. The Lord has given us great blessing in that. I'll have a lot to share with you about things that we did, things that we taught them, how we trained them, and the issues, how we trained them and taught them in areas of sexuality, of managing their possessions, of dealing with personal issues of bitterness and hurts and things like that. And I want to talk to you not just about theory, but about what we actually did and how we did it. I'll give you materials that we used with our young people, and materials that the Lord has blessed that you can use in your training and ministry. There's a lot more to share, but that will be a good start, and I'm looking forward to when you come to hearing your story, your questions, your struggles, your problems, and together we'll see what the Lord has in store for us. But until then, God bless you and goodbye.